All right. Hey, everyone. Happy Sunday. I've been talking a little bit lately on my posts, and it's been really percolating in my being. I've been reflecting and thinking and meditating and feeling and spending time and energy with all the ways that I really showed up in my marriage with these codependent tendencies. And one of the specific codependencies, there's kind of different ways that codependence shows up, and they all have a similar root issue, which is manifests a little differently for everyone. Something along the lines of fear of being alone, or a fear that you're not really taken care of, or that you can't really take care of yourself. You can't really trust yourself to take care of yourself, or you don't really trust life to take care of you, some version of that. And that has us gripping into what feels like safety. And it's a really interesting thing to contend with when you're somebody who identifies as a visionary, someone who, always sees possibilities and is kind of doing some internal work, self-reflection, engaging in these higher level conversations about self and contribution to the world, and being woke or evolved, and I put that in quotes because it's kind of, when you're on the path, that there's the more you know, the more you don't know kind of thing, right? We are beautiful beings, and we are nothing all at the same time. So holding on to that lightly, right? But I share that because I spend a lot of time really paying attention to my behavior and how I relate to others. Thank you for the thumbs up. I can't see who sent it, but thank you. I love seeing people showing up and tuning in, and thanks for your love. So yeah, I just noticed that I have these controlling tendencies, and it's something I've been working on, and it was really affecting my marriage the first year or so, and we've been for about 4 years now, together for 7. And I really started cleaning it up for the last 2 years, examining my codependent tendencies. And I would just anything that would drive me crazy about my husband, I would try to fix it or control it. Every way you can think of. Asking nicely, for him to do things differently, asking him to go to a workshop with me, asking for him to read a book, all these ways of basically asking him to be different. And there's really 2 things going on. One is my ability to be with what is, and I didn't really have that capacity entirely, right? To an extent, but obviously not completely, because I was really wrestling really consistently with, I wish he was just like this. I wish he was more interested in going to these workshops. I wish that I could talk about this chapter from this book and he would be so excited about it. I wish that he would be like those other people, those other guys that, at these workshops that I would go to. And that was really harming my marriage, as you can imagine, right? And so what I really got was that I hadn't fully chosen my husband when I was really doing this work. So I had to make a choice. I did that largely when I first married him. There was a way I confronted that when I first married him. But then I was looking the other way at certain behaviors of his. And, really, they weren't really even that problematic. They were just not how I think he should live his life. He would be more inclined to hang out on the couch instead of go do some exciting workshop, right? And I had a judgment about that means he's wasting his energy or wasting his time, or he's not doing things that are meaningful, or all these judgments. And it's really pretty narcissistic in a sense when you really look at it, the spiritual superiority that my way is better, And so I had to really learn how to really choose him for who he is and who he isn't, while also holding on to my desire. So that's the second part. So the first part is, can I be with what is without resisting it or trying to change it? It's there's so much more there than it sounds simple, but like usually we'll be like secretly trying to change it. Like, no, I accept my partner for who they are, but like secretly you don't, not fully, not that part of them, right? You know what I'm saying? And no, everything. You have to really choose them for all they are and all they're not. Now, that doesn't mean, I'm talking to people who are really in relationships that are relatively safe and healthy, right? And, that definition is some other conversation, but not abusive, I would say. So if you're in an abusive relationship, that's a whole other ballgame, and I'm not speaking to that. But I think all relationships have some sort of dysfunctional dynamics, because that's just relationship. We're not all like optimally functioning all the time. Therefore, we're functioning dysfunctionally sometimes. And it's not bad or wrong. It's just something to pay attention to and to be responsible for both parties. So I would put all my focus on him and like what he should be responsible for and what he should be doing differently or better, instead of just choosing him for who he is and who he isn't fully. And then also being responsible for my desires. Now, there was a way that I was doing that, again, to an extent, but not fully. So this is like, I feel like the common trap for people who are on the personal development path, spiritual path, is like, there's a way that we show up to our desires and our commitments to life and our relationships that's like 80 to 99% fully committed. Oh, thank you, Frost. Yeah. Can I be with what is after I accept it? Yeah. Let me see what else you say here. Can I feel like it comes down to being able to step back and the ability to accept and communicate your own needs as a partner? Totally, yeah. And when I would communicate my needs, it would be like he would need to meet me there. Like there was no space around it. Like, I need you to do this for me, or I need you to stop doing this for me. Like that, because I couldn't be with it. And that's really my issue. And like how to create boundaries that invite intimacy. So like that's a whole, I learned this from Kendra Kunov. Most people create boundaries that have you at arm's length. Like when you do this, like, sorry, but you need to step back. Instead of like, when you do this is my experience, and I'm wondering if we could try this, because what I really want is to feel close to you. So it's not about like, nope, you're cut off when you do that. It's like, oh, when this happens, what I would really love to happen would be this. I'm trying to think of an example offhand. Like if I want to have like a serious conversation with my spouse and I really want him to show me his presence, right? And I would like demand that. Like, I need you to look at me when I'm talking to you. Or when in fact, when I really looked, I didn't need him to look at me. I just needed to know that he was listening and honoring what I had to say. So I had to really look at what I actually needed. What was the actual boundary? And when I said it like that, like, I love when I can feel you, as opposed to, I don't like it when you don't look at me in the eyes when we're listening. I feel like you're not there, right? That's basically trying to get a need met, but with a criticism instead of, I love feeling so close to you when I share something. And I noticed that I actually don't even need for you to look at me in the eyes. I can feel you. I can feel you listening. And I know that you're listening when you, just even when you say, mm-hmm, and then the next day, I know you usually take some time to process, and the next day you'll respond. Like, I'm willing to see how he can show up. Before, I wasn't willing for him to show me how he was able to show up. Does that make sense? So I would get all caught up in like, he should be showing up this way for me, and then make him all wrong for the way he wasn't doing that, instead of looking like, okay, this is what I need. I need to know that he's present and honoring what I'm sharing, but he actually was. I just couldn't see it because it didn't look the way that I thought it should look. And this is where that spaciousness comes in, and the willingness to see, like, how is my partner actually giving me the thing that I really want? Like, how is he actually present? How is my partner actually honoring me, even if it doesn't look like the way I'd ideally have preferred, or like the way I learned in my workshop about, like, workshops are like this ideal, they're beautiful. And I'm not saying you can't have those ideal dynamics in your relationship, but I feel like for so many of us on the path, we get stuck on like, why won't my partnership look like it feels in a workshop? Like, why won't they be looking right in my eyes, or like doing all the right things, or like, do you know what I'm talking about? Where it becomes like weaponized, right? And we don't realize it because it's like well-intentioned, and like we love the way those ooey gooey exercises in the workshops feel, and the retreats that we attend, and like the books that we read, and all these things as seekers that we immerse ourselves in. But when it doesn't look like that with our partner who isn't necessarily on that path, we freak out and we start to try to control everything and demand things. Right? You just feel like the tension creep up in your body. And then you're really not available for love. You're not available to love your partner or for your partner to love you because everything is wrong, because it doesn't look like the way you think it should. So and this comes down to really being codependent. It's like my inability to be with what is, to have my own back, to honor my own desires, to ask for what I want, and to be okay with whatever response. Like, that's another thing. Like, we think just asking for what we want is all we need to do. No. We need to ask for what we want and then be okay with whatever their response is. And then choose what do we want to create from there. Like, if their response doesn't work for us, we get to look at, well, why is that? Is it because it's not the perfect response, an ideal way that I think this should go? Is there space for the way that they want to meet me here? Am I willing to meet them where they're offering to meet me, as opposed to it has to be my way or the highway? And again, that's like the gripping, like the controlling, the like, I need to know I'm safe in this relationship. I need to know that you can love me the way I need to be loved. Do it. Right? And it's just, you can just see all the ways it really comes back to like, can I be with what is? And there's other ways we can honor our desires. Like, maybe the truth is that your partner really can't meet you even really close to how you would love to be met in a certain capacity. Like, sisterhood for me, being in community with other women, has filled something so deep for me that I was trying to get met with my spouse. And I know it might seem obvious. Like of course you can't expect everything from your partner. We all know that conceptually, but we still do it. We still wonder like why they can't show up for us like our girlfriends can, or like, and not just any girlfriend, but women who are like on the path, right? Like sisterhood. Yeah, it's such a nourishment that people miss out on. I love that you have that parallel language, Frost. Unraveling codependency. Yes, it's huge. And I think it's rampant, even for us like evolved people. Like, it's just such a human condition. Is it a good partner fit if they can't love us anywhere near how we need? You know, that's a beautiful question. Like, this comes down to, what do you actually need? And I think oftentimes what we think we need is different than what we're actually most really committed to. Sometimes what we think we need is actually like a codependent mechanism. Like, oh, this partner's not good for me because they can't, whatever, fill in the blank. And again, I'm not talking about abusive relationships, right? I'm talking about just like the things that you want to feel deeply intimate, or like that have the hot sex that you want, like all these things that we want. We're so hungry, and that's beautiful. I love like hungry people because I'm a hungry woman. Like I'm all about, that's who I work with, is hungry lovers. And so it's a great question, Katie. And it's just like one of those things that I have found with my clients, that most of the time the person can love us closer than we thought, but we haven't accepted their version. How does that land for you? Is that possible? And I'm not saying that's exclusively the case. Like, sometimes it's not a fit, right? This person isn't a fit for the things that we're deeply committed to creating in our lives. But I have a partner who's so different from me. We literally speak different native tongue. Different cultures. He has never read any of the books or gone to any of the workshops, maybe a couple that I've like dragged him to. It's such a good sport. But like, we really speak different languages, but we have some really fundamental commitments around like family and affection. Like, we really meet each other's needs for affection, physical affection, there's a way that he's open to growth. Whenever I asked him, like, are you on the growth path? Or like, those kinds of sort of questions, he would be like, no, and that would freak me out. But when I look, it's just because growth looks different for him. He just doesn't verbalize it like I do. Of course, most people are on the growth path, whether they're going to workshops or not. Like, people are usually growing or they're dying. Like, that's just, people are on the growth path. You just look in their life, like, where are they? Like, the way he operates in his business and his work tells me that he likes to stretch himself, that he likes to see what he's capable of. I mean, that's personal growth. It just doesn't look like mine, but I couldn't see that for years. So there's something that you could be overlooking. Yep, that doesn't surprise me. Up 90% are codependent. I mean, I think it's just a function of being human these days, like, or maybe forever. Like, people don't know how to be responsible for their own desires and their own needs, as opposed to demanding it from their partner. Yeah, it is a nuanced discussion, Katie, for sure. Yeah, whether people are on the path, whether knowingly or not. I say that most people are on the path. This just looks different than, those of us who are, like, very consciously engaged in it in a very, like, overt way, workshops, books, all those things. But I think, like, if people are just waiting for their evolved partner at the next retreat or workshop they go to, they're missing out on, like, the richness of, quote unquote, ordinary people. That sounds so condescending, and it kind of is. But I say that so you get what I'm getting at. Like, people who don't go to those workshops can still make beautiful, beautiful partners, because when you really look, there's at I like to say the top 3 most fundamental commitments you have in your life. Most people can probably meet you there. It just might look different. And so that comes down to you and how much flexibility and capacity you have to receive love and to create shared purpose from the places where your, like, Venn diagrams, so to speak, where they meet, where they overlap. And that's the place to really invest your energy. And then the places where you don't overlap, you figure out how to get those met in a way that honors the marriage, right? And honors your partner. Your partner's going to have some needs that you're not going to be able to meet either. Like, you're not the only one. So, yeah, these are nuanced conversations. Thank you for tuning in and for hearing my story. And yeah, if you're a control freak like me, welcome. It's normal, and being a control freak is really just your way of trying to keep yourself safe. But the truth is that you're not safe. Love isn't safe. And I hope you know what I mean by that. I'm not talking about abusive, like accepting that. But that, every day I choose my husband, and every day I choose to have my heart cracked open to him showing me who he really is, and me being able to fully meet him and see him. I was scared to fully see him. I was scared for him to fully see me, even though I do all this, like, authentic relating stuff. I was afraid that the truth might split us apart, but the truth has only ever brought us together. Because the truth isn't ever usually like what I think it is at first, like, oh no, this partner can't meet me where I want them to, and so our relationship's over. It's usually not that. It's usually like, I've been demanding you fulfill this in a specific way, and I wasn't willing to see how you could meet me there in a different way. Or I wasn't willing to look at how I could nourish that need that I have outside of this marriage. Again, I'm not really talking about sexual needs. For me, we don't have an open relationship, and I usually work with clients in monogamous partnerships. I'm speaking more to just feeling like nourished, met, seen, filled up. And that's where, again, sisterhood has been such a critical ingredient for that. Let me see what else we got here in the comments. So I don't know if you're still here, Katie, but my suggestion would be to also look at how much nourishment do you have with sisterhood, because it's indescribable how nourishing that is for a marriage, at least in my experience. Thank you, Frost. Thank you so much for all your love. Yay. Well, keep staying tuned. I'm going to come on with more lives, and I do have a retreat coming up. If you want to, in Los Angeles in person, play with the 8 archetypes of feminine eros It is a wild journey. We touch all the places of feminine arrows. The more masculine flavored, the feminine flavored piece of being really a holy woman. Holy, like whole, and holy, like sacred, right? Play on words there. So the holy woman has these masculine and feminine dynamics, and we really look at how we can embody them as women, and how that has been huge and instrumental in my relationship. I'll talk about that in another Facebook Live. And I have a 4-month program, group coaching too, if you want to look into that, for my hungry lovers who want to up-level their intimacy and their sex in their committed relationship. High-level coaching and really beautiful community, and these kinds of conversations tailored to you, so you can really create the yummy relationship that you crave and you deserve to have, even with a partner who's really different from you, right? All right, loves, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time.